So we're here with Leslie Cohen from the South Windsor Public School District. She's one of my favorite cooperating teachers to talk about student teaching. So Leslie, if you could just tell us your general approach and how you like to integrate them into the program here and what you really hope they get out of the experience.
Terrific. Well, when I first get a student teacher, I make it very, very clear to them that it's not for them to take on my style. It's to give them an opportunity to develop their own style.
Okay.
So as soon as I can, I get them into the classroom.
Great.
I usually start with giving them what their primary instrument is, so they get to teach their own instrument. And depending on who it is, I won't tell them anything about the students that are in that class, which is typical of when we first start a job. We don't have prior knowledge of these students, so they get a chance to do that.
Okay. And so you get jump in right away with them, and then what's sort of your progression? In our case, you see them for 7 weeks. So how much do they do? How soon?
Like I said, they take on their own primary instrument at least one class a day by themselves, and then every week we add another class. I let the students pick their own classes that they wish to add, and we'll go through the schedule, and they'll continue working with those same classes until they're finished. So every week we're just adding more classes and more classes. We'll start with a little bit of the band rehearsals, and then eventually they're doing my entire band rehearsal.
Okay.
So by week 7, which is what my student teacher is on right now, she's opting to not teach one class a day, and which is just fine.
Yes.
Generally, those become the odder instruments like the bassoon, oboe, French horn, things like that.
Okay. What? Clearly, because you're willing to take on student teachers all the time, you're committed to this.
Yes.
Can you talk to me about your motivation and what you hope to contribute to the profession and what you get out of this experience?
Yes. Well, my past experience, I had a horrible student teaching experience where I was really left alone.
Okay.
And I got very little feedback day to day, class by class, until I got my grades. And there's where I saw all the feedback, which I didn't understand.
Okay.
So it's been really important to me to teach brand new teachers and to give them a good experience with student teaching that I didn't have. As we go through the whole process, it's... Go back. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Your motivation for doing this and what you get out of it.
What I get out of it,
Yeah.
I get out of it all the new information that's going on in the colleges. These kids come and they student teach with me, and I pick up new techniques and adjustments and strategies to use with kids, and it's really important to do that. Also, many of us as music teachers teach in a bubble.
Sure.
And we don't have interaction with other music teachers on a daily basis. So when I have a student teacher and we're really discussing how each student is learning, I'm getting another insight that I don't have if it's just me.
Excellent.
Yeah.
To what extent do they interact with parents or administrators, or what kind of opportunities they have in that way? Or do you ask them to do that, or do you do it with them, or at all?
In the past, I really have kept that as a minimum. I will help them, or I will talk with them about an email that I'm writing, and they'll help me put together a reply to an email that might be difficult, so that they can think through the process and make sure that they're holding off before they hit send.
Okay.
Over the past 2 years, I've had this smart music, which has been great.
Yep.
And so I now have my student teacher is at home grading things on smart music, which does get emailed to the parents and to the kids outside of me being there.
Okay.
Although I do see all the comments that she
Sure.
writes.
So how did you ease her into that? I mean, I assume there had to come a point where you trusted her to do some grading. And
Yeah, she was watching me grade, and of course I would talk to her, just like I would a student. What do you think? What should the grade be? What would your comment be? And we would talk through it. And even sometimes now, during my plan period, she'll be grading smart music, and I'll be doing something else, and she'll ask, "What do you think about this?" And so we'll talk about what I think the comment would be if I were to write it.
Okay.
So.
I'm curious your thoughts about this because I've watched you do this successfully for a while. It's always a fine balance to interject and interrupt their teaching and
Yes.
correct them and let them stumble a bit and figure it out. How do you manage that, really?
I really am very hands-off
Okay.
while they're teaching. Stumbling is all part of the gig.
Yes, it is.
And we have to
We all
learn,
know.
just like as performers, we have to learn how to make the mistake and move on
Mm-hmm.
and adjust for it and keep going. And then afterwards, when you go back to practice something, you're going to fix it. So I let the stumbling happen.
Okay.
And I see all sorts of different techniques and strategies on how to get out of that.
I'm sure.
And then occasionally, excuse me, the student teacher will feel comfortable enough to say, help. And of course, I'm there to jump right in,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to the oddity instruments.
Yes. Not much experience with.
Right,
Okay.
right.
A step back from that then, do they plan lessons on their own? Do they send you lesson plans ahead of time? How does the planning sequence work?
They always plan lessons on their own.
Okay.
And they'll give it to me. Generally, I ask for it that morning.
Okay.
And they'll give it to me, and they'll write, what their plan is. And we all know it's just a plan.
Yes.
And then, of course, I'll give them whatever changes in the schedule for that day, and we have to adjust it.
Oh, yeah.
But while they're doing their lesson, and I have the plan right here, and then I have this black book. It's just a composition book, and I will script in the book. At the beginning of each student-teacher's session with me, it's really just hard fact scripting.
Okay.
As they progress, it'll be more my thoughts and my ideas, and here's a problem you were seeing, and here's a strategy I would use, and just writing those notes down.
Okay.
So by the end of the day, when the student teacher goes home and they have 6, 7, 8 classes to reflect on,
Yeah.
they have something in print that they can do that.
Okay.
I like to do it in a notebook because it's, we don't have to worry
It's
about
easier.
technology,
Yeah.
we don't have to worry about things. And they like seeing the time and effort that I put into it.
Okay.
But they're just like students. They
Sure.
need to hear what they're doing well, and as well as what they could work on.
Yes, please. So you get all kinds of instrumentalists from us.
Mhm.
How much performing do you expect from them playing on their primary as well as secondary instruments?
I expect the kids that are going into elementary music to be able to play all of the instruments.
Okay.
And a lot of it can be learning right along with the kids. Although there's a fine balance, you might want to play that trumpet during a clarinet class. But getting that time in, and I don't mind them using school time to do that. It's quite often I will, to keep my French horn chops up. I'm a bassoonist, so, I do need to do that. And we don't have a home orchestra at home
Right.
to be able to pull and start practicing.
Right.
So I think it is really important that they do it, or at least have places where they can go to get the information, fingering charts. Their peers. I have a number of my peers. If I have a saxophone question, I will email you. I will email some other people.
Yeah.
If I can't get this kid's D to stop squeaking,
Sure.
what do I do? As a bassoonist, I don't know all the things, so you have to have
Sure.
those connections.
Good. And it's a good model for them to reach out and learn
It
to
is.
use their resources.
We're not all perfect.
No. We all are isolated, but not perfect.
Right.
So I know it depends on timing and when you have a student teacher, but when the timing works out and they're here during a concert,
Mhm.
what role would they play in the concert? What do you give them?
I generally will give them one piece to do out
Okay.
of 3 or 4.
Okay.
That doesn't often happen
Right.
because of when our concert seasons are. But, depending on when the student teacher is, I'll have them do partial rehearsals and working on their one piece, and then I come in and do the other 2 pieces for the rest of rehearsal.
Okay.
Or in this one's particular case, she's taking them all on. So it really depends on the level of the student teacher and how good they are at, processing what they're doing up there and having a good, solid lesson plan.
Right.
So it really depends.
Do they pick any of those pieces, or do they pick them with you, or do you already have them chosen? And
I generally have them chosen.
Okay.
I choose them the season before. So You know, if I start a student teacher in September, my concert music is really already picked.
Right. Understood. So you mentioned smart music. To what extent, I've seen this, but for the record, to what extent the student teacher is expected to incorporate technology in their lessons?
I think all of us are really expected to incorporate as much technology as we can right now, especially with the state, evaluations that are happening.
Yeah.
So we are using not only a smart music, but also a smart board is essential to the program that we've developed. It is important. Right now, South Windsor is using smart music K or 4 through 12 instrumentally.
Okay.
And so our task at the elementary school is to get these kids comfortable with using this program. And there's so much to the program that you do have to get on it regularly to show them how to do it. My student teacher has been phenomenal about grabbing a hold of that program and learning what it can do, and and trying desperately to keep up with the kids.
Yeah.
Because you're at home and all of a sudden you have submissions you have to deal with.
Right.
She has not made lessons yet on there or units.
Okay.
But mine are already pre-made, so we're still on the new highway to the smart music thing.
Understood. But it's great that you expect them to incorporate that.
It is
what you do here, and they need to learn how to use it.
It is, and you go anywhere else, and they're going to expect some kind of technology to be used.
Right.
So we're also using the smart board and smart notebook, which has been a complete change in my teaching and probably new to my student teachers.
Yes.
Where we're doing pretty much individual education plans for every single music student.
Okay.
And we keep track of that using smart notebook.
Smart notebook.
Yeah.
Yes. Excellent. Maybe just one more. To what extent do they participate in professional development sessions or things like that?
This year we were lucky to have professional development every Wednesday.
Okay.
And yes, I do bring my student teachers to all my music meetings and to my professional development. Since this student teacher has been there, because of scheduling issues, it has just been me, my student teacher, and my supervisor.
Okay.
So we have gotten into some great conversations that most student teachers are not privy to.
Right.
And I think that's really, really important because that's the reality of it. That's the nuts and bolts of what's going on.
Yes.
If you're not involved in these conversations and not hearing what they're going to be about
Yes.
and how to deal with an administrator, how to speak to them, how to approach them with a problem or a question and support behind your decision in making certain decisions. If they don't see that, they're really on their own.
Yes.
And I don't think you get as much of that at different levels as you do what I'm doing down here at the elementary level.
Yeah, you don't. So it's great that they get to do that with you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for all you do and for contributing to this project.
It's been wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks.